He offered her money on a freezing New York sidewalk. She refused. Instead, a quiet little girl said one sentence that stopped a billionaire cold: "I don't need help. I just don't want to be sent away again." He walked away, then came back unaware that moment would change both their lives forever. December pressed Manhattan into clean, unforgiving lines. The cold wasn't dramatic. It didn't howl or announce itself. It sharpened everything: breath, sound, intention. On Fifth Avenue, people moved with purpose: coats, buttoned eyes, forward lives contained within schedules and screens. Near the marble wall of a luxury boutique, a little girl sat. She wasn't slumped. She wasn't reaching out. She had positioned herself carefully just outside the main flow of pedestrians, as if she understood the mathematics of being unseen. Her legs were tucked in close boots aligned. The lavender coat she wore was too big, its sleeves folded back with care, evidence of hands that had learned to adjust rather than ask. In her lap rested a small teddy bear. One button eye was missing. The other had been polished smooth by years of touch. She held it not tightly, not loosely, precisely, as if the bear had rules too. People passed within inches of her. Heels clicked. Leather brushed air. No one stopped. The girl did not look up to catch their attention. She watched instead how long each person hesitated before stepping around her, how some quickened their pace, how others pretended she wasn't there at all. She learned from it. Children who survive always do. Every few minutes, she adjusted the teddy bear, angling its face outward, making sure the remaining eye could be seen. Not for pity, for proof. Proof that she existed. Snow gathered in the seams of the sidewalk. The city breathed around her. She did not cry. She did not beg. She waited, and she had learned that waiting, when done quietly enough, could feel almost like control. Gideon Vale moved through the city as if it were a solved equation. His stride was measured exact, coat buttoned perfectly, gloves uncreased, every detail in place because disorder invited questions and questions invited delay. Gideon had built a life that did not wait. Numbers filled his mind as he walked quarterly projections, a delayed call from Zurich, a discrepancy he already intended to eliminate. Emotion did not factor in. Emotion complicated systems. Fifth Avenue glowed with early holiday light. Storefronts displayed warmth they sold by the hour. Gideon checked his watch. 4:19 p.m., on time. Then his pace faltered. Not because of the cold, not because of the crowd, because his eyes caught on stillness. The girl sat where motion should have been, not hidden, not centered, precisely placed. Gideon felt an immediate irrational irritation. He did not stop for inefficiencies. He did not stop for variables. Yet his feet refused instruction. He slowed, then stopped. For the first time in years, Gideon Vale looked down at another human being. She didn't look up right away. She didn't flinch. Children noticed everything, especially men who stopped too close. Her calm unsettled him more than panic would have. "Are you lost?" he asked. The question sounded wrong even to his own ears, too formal, too clean. The girl lifted her head. Her eyes were clear, observant, older than they should have been. "No, sir," she said. No explanation followed. No invitation. Gideon glanced around, instinctively searching for an adult who should have been responsible for her presence here. The city continued uninterrupted. "Where are your parents?" he asked. She adjusted the teddy bear slightly, ensuring its head rested more comfortably against her arm. "I don't have any." The statement landed without drama, just information. Something in Gideon's chest shifted, subtle and unwelcome, like a gear slipping half a tooth out of alignment. Gideon reached for his wallet before he finished thinking. The motion was automatic, practiced. Solutions came in denominations. He slid crisp bills free, uncreased, already constructing the outcome in his mind: warm food shelter problem addressed. "Take this," he said, extending the money. "Get somewhere warm." The girl didn't move. She didn't look at the bills. She looked at him, not up at him, direct, steady. "I don't want money," she said. The sentence landed cleanly. Final. Gideon frowned, unsettled. "Then what do you want?" She hesitated, not in fear, but in calculation, as if deciding how much truth the moment could carry. Then she spoke quietly, without softness or demand. "If I take it," she said, "they'll move me again." Gideon stilled. "I just want one place," she continued, "where someone stays." The words didn't strike loudly. They settled, heavy, like something placed carefully into his hands that he hadn't known how to hold. For a breath, the city noise dulled. Gideon felt his tie tighten at his throat. A memory stirred, an empty house, a clock ticking, promises made to no one in particular. The girl lowered her gaze back to the teddy bear. To her, the conversation was complete. Gideon straightened his coat. This was not his responsibility, he told himself. Systems existed for this. Protocols. Numbers to call. Checks to write. He nodded once, a gesture too stiff to mean reassurance, and stepped back into the current of the sidewalk. But the sentence followed him. One place. Someone stays. It threaded through the rest of his evening, through flawless meetings, tasteless food, and a penthouse that felt suddenly, inexplicably empty. And for the first time in his life, Gideon Vale realized something terrifying. He had walked away. The penthouse had never felt small before. Glass walls framed the city in perfect geometry, light grids, moving lines, proof of order. Gideon stood at the window long after he should have been asleep. The skyline spread beneath him like a system he had mastered. Every building had a purpose, every floor a function, nothing wasted. Yet the space behind him felt hollow. He poured a drink, didn't finish it. The glass sat untouched on the counter, condensation forming a thin ring that annoyed him for reasons he couldn't articulate. He checked his phone. No missed calls, no emergencies. The world continued to run without him, smoothly, efficiently. He lay down. Sleep didn't come. When it did, it fractured almost immediately. Not dreams exactly. Fragments. A hallway from years ago. A door that never opened. The sound of a clock marking time that had nowhere to go. And beneath it all, uninvited, persistent, one place. Someone stays. Gideon sat up in bed, breath shallow. He told himself it was projection. He had offered help. The girl had refused. The outcome was not his responsibility. Emotion blurred judgment. He had learned that lesson early. Still, his mind replayed details with unwanted clarity. The careful way she had folded the sleeves of her coat. How she had angled the teddy bear so its single eye faced outward, as if it mattered how the world saw it. He checked the time. 2:47 a.m. Somewhere in the city, the girl was awake too. He knew it without knowing how. Waiting had a rhythm. Once learned, it never left you. By morning, logic returned, thin but present. Gideon dressed with renewed precision, cuffs aligned, tie exact. In the car, traffic crawled. The city yawned awake. "Take me back to Fifth Avenue," he said quietly. The driver glanced at him in the mirror. "Yes, sir." Gideon leaned back, exhaling slowly. He didn't know what he expected to find. Only that walking away had felt wrong in a way numbers never could explain. Morning light changed Fifth Avenue. The cold remained, but the edges softened. Office workers replaced last night's rush. Delivery carts rattled past. The boutique's marble facade stood exactly as Gideon remembered it, polished, indifferent. The sidewalk was full. She wasn't there. Of course she wasn't, Gideon told himself. He had come back for nothing. That was all. He reached for the door handle, ready to leave, ready to file the night away as an anomaly. Then he saw it. A fold of faded lavender tucked into the recessed doorway of a closed boutique 2 doors down. "Wait here," Gideon said, already opening the door. The cold hit sharper in the morning. The girl sat just inside the alcove, knees drawn in, coat wrapped neatly around her. The teddy bear rested against her chest, positioned carefully, as if it had been placed on purpose rather than held. She wasn't sleeping. She looked up as Gideon approached. Recognition crossed her face, not surprise, not relief. Awareness. "You came back," she said. Not a question. The words stopped him more effectively than anything she could have asked for. "Yes," Gideon replied after a moment. "I did." He crouched, keeping a respectful distance. He noticed how she didn't retreat, didn't advance. She simply remained where she was, as if testing whether the ground beneath her would hold. "What's your name?" he asked. She considered him briefly. "Lumi," she said. "But Sunny is better." "Sunny," he repeated. The name felt deliberate. Chosen. "It's colder today," Gideon said. "Yes," Sunny agreed. She adjusted the teddy bear, ensuring its remaining eye faced outward. "But the wind is quieter." Gideon nodded, unsure why that mattered, and certain that it did. "Have you eaten this morning?" he asked. "Not yet. No complaint. Just fact." "There's a diner nearby," Gideon said. "Warm, quiet. Would you like breakfast?" Sunny studied him, weighing the offer. Then she looked down at the teddy bear. "Can Captain Buttons come?" "Of course," Gideon said. That was enough. The diner smelled like coffee and heat and something fried too early in the morning. It wasn't charming. It was functional. Gideon chose a booth away from the door, instinctively sliding into the outside seat so Sunny could sit in. She placed Captain Buttons beside her, before sitting, angling him toward the table as if he were part of the conversation. Sunny ate carefully. Not slowly, not quickly. Each bite considered. When she finished half her pancake, she paused, then folded the remaining piece into a napkin. For later, she said, noticing Gideon's glance, In case of what?" he asked gently. She shrugged. "In case I don't get another one." The words tightened something in his chest he hadn't known was there. "How long have you been on your own?" Gideon asked. Sunny took a sip of juice before answering. "Since Miss Patty's house closed." "Who was Miss Patty?" "She took care of kids who didn't have families," Sunny said. "Then she got sick. Then the house closed. No bitterness, no detail beyond necessity. And after that," Gideon asked. "They said I'd go far away," Sunny replied. She smoothed the teddy bear's worn fabric. "Captain Buttons doesn't travel well." Gideon understood then that hope didn't always look bright. Sometimes it looked like staying put long enough for someone to remember you. When the plates were cleared, Gideon folded his hands together. "Sunny," he said carefully, "I don't think it's safe for you to stay outside. I can help, but only the right way." She met his eyes. "What way I can offer you a place to stay temporarily," he said. "Warm. Legal. With people whose job it is to make sure you're okay." Sunny was quiet for a long moment. "Would I have to stay?" she asked if I didn't want to. "No," Gideon said immediately. "You can leave." She considered this, then nodded once. "Okay," she said. "But Captain Buttons stays with me." "Always." "Always," Gideon agreed. And for the first time, Sunny smiled, not wide, not dramatic, just enough to change the room. The car ride was quiet. Sunny sat properly in the back seat, feet not quite touching the floor. Captain Buttons secured in both arms. She didn't press her face to the window. She watched the city pass with focused attention, as if memorizing exits, landmarks, patterns. Gideon noticed how she never asked where they were going, only how long it might take. He made his first call before they reached the bridge. Caleb, Gideon said when his attorney answered. "I need guidance. Immediately." He explained plainly where he'd found Sunny, what she'd said, what he intended to do, and just as important, what he refused to do. "I won't hide this," Gideon said. "I won't cut corners. I want everything documented." There was a brief pause on the line. "Then that's the correct instinct," Caleb replied. "I'll alert Child Protective Services and start emergency placement protocols." Sunny looked up from Captain Buttons. "Are you in trouble?" she asked calmly. No, Gideon said. I'm making sure we do this right. She nodded, accepting the answer without relief or fear, just information added to a growing internal map. When they arrived at the building, Sunny stopped just inside the doorway. The apartment rose around them in glass and pale stone, immaculate, quiet, too clean. It's tall, she said. Yes, Gideon replied. Too tall, probably. She didn't step further in. Gideon crouched beside her, lowering himself until they were eye level. People are going to come talk to you, he said. They'll ask questions. You don't have to answer anything that makes you uncomfortable. Sunny considered this. Will you be here? Yes, Gideon said. If you want me nearby, I'll stay. Okay, she said. What do I need to do right now? The question startled him. Not what happens to me. Not how long can I stay, what do you need, he asked instead. Sunny thought carefully. A toothbrush, she said, and socks that match. Gideon almost smiled. The apartment began to change almost immediately. Deliveries arrived, child-proofing equipment, soft blankets, a small lamp shaped like a star. Gideon instructed everything to be placed carefully, nothing overwhelming, nothing sudden. Sunny watched from the edge of the living room, coat still on Captain Buttons, tucked firmly against her side. She did not wander. Her eyes moved slowly, cataloging what was safe to touch and what was not. The sofa, the table, the wide-open floor that felt like too much space. You can sit anywhere, Gideon said gently. Sunny looked around, then chose the very edge of the sofa, perching with perfect posture, feet dangling just above the floor. She placed Captain Buttons beside her, angled outward like a lookout. Gideon realized with a faint sting of embarrassment that nothing here had ever been designed to comfort a child. Everything had been chosen to impress adults who stayed briefly. When the social worker, Ms. J. Park, arrived, Sunny greeted her politely. She answered questions calmly, precisely, and made one thing clear. I feel safe here, Sunny said. For now. Ms. Park noted it without drama. By evening, the paperwork granted Gideon temporary emergency custody, strictly monitored, strictly legal. Sunny watched the adults talk as if they were weather patterns passing overhead. She absorbed tone more than words. When Ms. Park left, the apartment fell quiet again. Too quiet. Gideon gestured toward the guest room. This is where you'll sleep, he said. For now. Sunny stepped inside and placed Captain Buttons carefully at the center of the bed. The teddy bear looked impossibly small against the wide gray spread. It's big, Sunny observed. Yes, Gideon said. We can make it smaller if you want. She shook her head. It's okay. Gideon hesitated, then said, I've ordered clothes and things that belong to you. You don't have to use any of them. Sunny examined the socks first. Yellow, soft, matching. These are good, she said. The approval landed heavier than any boardroom victory. Gideon didn't know when bedtime was supposed to happen. He knew how to close deals across time zones, how to predict market shifts before they appeared on charts. But this felt like a language he had never studied. Sunny adapted without instruction. She brushed her teeth with quiet concentration, washed her hands, changed into soft pajamas. Every movement was deliberate, practiced. Gideon showed her the small, star-shaped lamp and asked if it was okay. Yes, she said. But can the main light stay on too? Yes, Gideon answered immediately. And the door, she added. Just a little open. Just a little, he agreed. She climbed into bed, tucking Captain Buttons under her arm. Gideon sat on the edge, holding a tablet with a children's book he'd downloaded earlier. Would you like me to read? He asked. Sunny nodded once. His voice was stiff at first, unfamiliar with softness. Then it slowed. When he finished, Sunny studied him thoughtfully. You didn't do the voices, she said. I'm not very good at them, Gideon admitted. That's okay, she replied. You can practice. He stood to leave. Sunny's hand tightened briefly on the blanket. If I fall asleep, she said, eyes fixed on Captain Buttons, you won't send me somewhere else, right? The question landed without drama. No tears, just fear stated cleanly. Gideon answered without hesitation. Not tonight, he said. Not without telling you first. Not without listening. Sunny nodded, absorbing the words. That's good, she said. He turned off the main light, left the star lamp glowing, and paused at the door. The apartment hummed quietly around them. For the first time in decades, Gideon Vale understood something. With absolute clarity, this was not rescue. This was responsibility, and there would be no turning back. Morning arrived without ceremony. Light slipped through the glass walls, pale and controlled. Gideon woke before his alarm, already alert, as if his body had accepted a new responsibility, before his mind had finished understanding it. Sunny was awake too. She sat at the dining table, coloring quietly. Captain Buttons supervised from the far corner, propped upright like a sentinel. She didn't ask where Gideon had gone when he disappeared into the kitchen. She watched instead, absorbing the rhythm of his movements. You're quiet, she observed. Yes, Gideon replied. Thinking. That happens, Sunny said. She returned to her drawing. Later, while Sunny arranged her pencils by shade, Gideon asked carefully, Can I ask you something? She looked up immediately. Yes, what was your mom's name? Sunny didn't answer right away. She finished the line she was working on, placed the pencil down with care, then met his eyes. Hannah, she said. Hannah Carter. The name struck, not echoed. Gideon's grip tightened around the mug in his hand. Hannah Carter. He hadn't spoken it aloud in years, not since a different life, one defined by ambition and unfinished conversations. That's a nice name, he said, steadying his voice. She liked yellow, Sunny added. And songs. Gideon nodded, the room suddenly too small for memory. Did she ever talk about your dad? Sunny shook her head. She said he had to go away before I was born, that he didn't know. The words settled into place with unsettling precision. Gideon said nothing. He didn't trust his voice. Later, after Sunny returned to her drawing, Gideon stepped into his office and closed the door. He opened a drawer he rarely touched and pulled out an old leather album. The photographs were careless, with youth, laughter, sunlight, a woman with eyes too familiar to ignore. Hannah. The resemblance he had tried not to see was suddenly unmistakable. That afternoon, Gideon made a call. Caleb, he said quietly, I need a background check on Hannah Carter. Quietly. Thoroughly. There was a pause. Are you asking as a guardian, Caleb asked, or something else I don't know yet? Gideon replied. But I need the truth. When he returned to the living room, Sunny looked up. You went quiet, she said. Yes, Gideon answered. She nodded. That happens too. Caleb's call came late afternoon. Hannah Carter passed away 3 years ago, he said evenly. Illness, private treatment. No father listed on the birth certificate. Gideon closed his eyes. She named a sister, Caleb continued. Elodie Carter. Not in a position to assume care at the time. Sunny entered the system. Miss Patty was an informal caregiver. The silence that followed was clean. No melodrama. Just facts. There's one more step, Caleb said gently. If there's even a possibility, a DNA test, Gideon finished. Yes, with CPS informed. With consent, arrange it, Gideon said. That evening, Gideon lowered himself to Sunny's level. There's something I want to explain, he said. Sunny turned attentive at once. Okay. There's a test, Gideon said carefully. It answers questions about families. It doesn't change where you are right now. She thought for a moment. Does it hurt? No, he said. It's quick. Do I have to do it? No, Gideon said immediately. It's your choice. Sunny looked at Captain Buttons, then back at Gideon. If it says no, she asked quietly, do I still stay? The question landed without drama. No trembling, no tears. Gideon answered without pause. Yes. Sonny searched his face. Not just for tonight. Not just for tonight, he said. She nodded once. Okay. That night, a social worker returned briefly. Sonny greeted her politely and taped a new drawing to the refrigerator before she left two figures holding hands under a wide yellow sun. What's it called? Gideon asked. My new family, Sonny replied. He didn't correct her. Sleep came late. When it did, it brought no peace, only recalibration. The DNA appointment was efficient, respectful. Sonny treated it like a science experiment, watching the swab with curiosity. Gideon signed the forms deliberately, every line a commitment. Results in 48 hours, the technician said. 48 hours had never felt longer. Back home, Gideon canceled meetings without explanation. He delegated decisions that once would have been unthinkable to release. The world did not collapse, Sonny noticed. You're staying today, she said. Yes, Gideon replied. I am. They went to the park in the afternoon. Sonny walked beside him, not holding his hand, but close enough that the space between them felt intentional. At the playground, she waited at the edge. When she joined, it was by choice. That evening, Sonny asked, "What happens after the test? We'll talk," Gideon said. Together. And Aunt Libby, she asked. I found her, Gideon replied. She wants to see you. Sonny absorbed this quietly. Does she want me to leave? No, Gideon said. She wants to know you're safe. That's good, Sonny said. The phone rang at 8:14 a.m. Gideon Vale was already awake. You are Sonny's biological father, Caleb said. No pause, no build-up. The words didn't shock. They aligned. Thank you, Gideon replied. What's the sequence? When he returned to the kitchen, Sonny looked up immediately. You heard something, she said. Yes, Gideon replied, pulling out a chair to sit level with her. The test answered the question. She waited. It says I'm your dad. Sonny blinked once, then nodded as if a puzzle piece had clicked into place. Okay, she said. Does that change anything? Gideon asked. It changes responsibility, he said, not how safe you are. She considered this. Can I still call you Gideon? You can call me whatever feels right. She looked down at Captain Buttons. Dad is okay. The word settled between them, not heavy, not fragile. Just right. Elodie Carter arrived 3 days later. Gideon insisted the meeting happen in the apartment. Not neutral ground, not a cafe. Structure mattered. Safety mattered. Sonny needed to know where she stood literally and emotionally. Sonny knew the plan. My aunt is coming today, she said that morning, brushing her hair with deliberate strokes. Captain Buttons sat on the counter watching. She might look like my mom. Yes, Gideon said. She might. Will you be here? I'll be right beside you. Elodie stepped off the elevator precisely at noon. She was smaller than Gideon expected, dressed simply posture, careful but steady. Her eyes went immediately to Sonny. Neither rushed. Neither smiled too soon. Sonny approached first. She held Captain Buttons firmly, as if anchoring herself. Your Aunt Libby, she said. Yes, Elodie replied softly. I am. They stood facing each other, two people measuring how much truth could safely fit into a single moment. I know you're Bear, Elodie said after a beat. Your mom let me help choose him. Sonny's grip loosened slightly. That's Captain Buttons, she said. He's missing an eye. Elodie nodded. He lost it when you were 3. Sonny accepted this without comment and sat beside her on the sofa, close but not pressed against her. Gideon remained standing, present but unobtrusive. They talked about Hannah, about Yellow, about songs, about Miss Patty. No probing questions, no urgency, just facts shared gently like fragile objects passed hand to hand. When lunch arrived, Sonny helped set the table. She placed Captain Buttons in a chair of his own. He eats with us, she explained. Of course, Elodie said. Ms. J. Park checked in, briefly observed the interaction, and left satisfied. No alarms, no red flags, just a child steadying herself between two adults who were trying sincerely not to fail her. Later, Sunny retreated to her room to draw. Elodie and Gideon remained at the table. "You're her father," Elodie said. "Not a question." "Yes. I wanted to take her," Elodie continued. "When my life was stable." "I know," Gideon replied. "And you looked for her." Elodie nodded. "I did." Silence stretched, not hostile measured. "I intend to seek primary custody," Gideon said. "But I don't want to remove you from her life." Elodie studied him carefully. "I don't want a courtroom that makes her feel chosen between. Neither do I." For the first time, their interests aligned completely. They agreed to proceed slowly, with lawyers, with social workers, with calendars instead of ultimatums. The legal meeting took place a week later. Gideon's attorney, Caleb, sat to his right. Elodie had counsel of her own. Ms. J. Park attended as an observer. No raised voices, no grandstanding. Gideon spoke plainly. "I seek primary custody," he said. "I also propose structured visitation, regular, predictable, expanding as Sunny grows." Elodie listened, arms folded not defensively, thoughtfully. "You're offering access," she said, "not permission." "Yes," Gideon replied. "Family, not rivalry." Elodie closed her eyes briefly. "I promised my sister I'd protect her daughter," she said, "not win her." The agreement took shape carefully. Summer visits, school breaks, shared holidays when Sunny was ready, calls whenever Sunny wanted, mediation for disagreements before courts were ever mentioned. The judge reviewed the plan days later and approved it with minor clarifications. No revisions to the heart of it. Outside the courtroom, Gideon and Elodie stood side by side holding identical documents. "It's clear," Elodie said. "That's what matters," Gideon replied. "You understand this isn't just paperwork," she added. "Yes," Gideon said. "It's structure. It prevents panic." Elodie's mouth tightened briefly. She used to panic when anyone said the word placement. "That word doesn't exist in our house anymore," Gideon said quietly. They didn't linger. Sunny was at home with Maren, Gideon's sister, making a star map collage at the dining table. Gideon had chosen not to bring her to court. The adults would handle the adult work. When Gideon walked in, Sunny looked up immediately. "You're back?" she said. "Yes," Gideon replied, hanging his coat slowly. The pace mattered. It signaled calm. Sunny held up a piece of paper. "Captain Buttons has a passport," she announced. "A passport," Gideon echoed. "Yes," Sunny said seriously. "So he can visit Aunt Libby, too." Gideon accepted the hand-drawn booklet as if it were official. "That's very organized," he said. "He needs structure," Sunny replied. That evening, Gideon sat beside Sunny at the table drafting his declaration. Plain statements, clear commitments. Sunny glanced over. "What are you writing?" "A promise," Gideon said. "To who?" "To the court," he replied. "So they understand that you're safe, loved, and not being moved around." Sunny considered this. "I don't like being moved." "I know," Gideon said. She returned to her homework. The questions she didn't ask mattered more than the ones she did. That night, Sunny taped a new drawing to the refrigerator. 3 figures stood beneath a wide yellow sun. One was taller, one was smaller. One stood just slightly apart. "Who's that?" Gideon asked gently. "My Aunt Sunny said. She hasn't come yet." Gideon nodded. The family was expanding quietly. Over the next weeks, the house adjusted. Elodie visited monthly, never unannounced. Maren stopped by often. Schedules were shared. Expectations clarified. Sunny thrived. She began to take up space. She sat cross-legged on the floor. She chose the middle seat at the table. She left Captain Buttons in corners without checking if it was allowed. One evening, Gideon closed his laptop earlier than usual. "You're done," Sunny asked. "For today," he said. She nodded, satisfied. They cooked together simple things. Sunny followed instructions carefully, asking questions only when necessary. When Gideon burned the onions, she examined them, then said, We can try again. They did. At school orientation, Gideon sat beside other parents, listening more than speaking. Sunny stayed close but not attached. She greeted teachers politely, answered questions clearly. When asked what she liked to draw, she said, "Families." At night, routines formed. Story, star lamp, door open just a little. Sometimes Sunny asked questions. Do you always work? No. Did you before? Yes. Do you like this better? Gideon considered carefully. Yes. She accepted the answer without comment. A month later, Gideon noticed something that stopped him mid-step. Sunny no longer positioned herself at the edge of rooms. She moved inward. Trust, he realized, didn't arrive dramatically. It arrived when a child stopped asking where to sit. That night, as Gideon stood in the hallway listening to the quiet, he understood the shape of what they were building. Not rescue, not redemption, continuity. 6 months didn't arrive like a milestone. It arrived like a routine. It slipped in through mornings that needed planning and evenings that required patience. It arrived in the quiet decisions Gideon used to avoid moving meetings, canceling dinners, letting calls go to voicemail because a child's homework took longer than expected. The penthouse was gone. Not sold in some dramatic gesture, not abandoned in a fit of sentiment. Simply replaced because Gideon finally saw what Sunny had felt. On her first day, the air was too high up there, too empty, too echoing. They moved into a brownstone with stairs that creaked in a comforting way, a front door that opened to a small entryway with hooks low enough for a child's coat, a kitchen that smelled like food instead of marble. Sunny liked the stairs. She liked to race up them with captain buttons tucked under her arm, her socks finally matching without needing to ask. She liked that the windows were closer to the street, that she could hear life outside without feeling like she was floating above it. And Gideon liked quietly, almost guiltily, that the house forced him to be human. You couldn't glide through it. You had to touch things, turn lights on, pick up shoes, step around crayons. On Wednesdays, Gideon walked Sunny to school. Not with cameras, not for appearances, just because Wednesdays belonged to them. Sunny never held his hand, but she stayed close enough that the space between them felt intentional, like a chosen thread, not a tether. She counted intersections out loud the first week, then stopped. By the third week, she began pointing out details instead. The bakery window with the blue awning, the cracked sidewalk slab that looked like a lightning bolt, the stray cat that sometimes watched from the same stoop. Gideon noticed she didn't point out people. People had been unreliable. Objects and patterns were safer. At school orientation, he sat among other parents who spoke a different language, playdates, birthday parties, after-school clubs. He listened. He learned. He wrote things down like a man who used to believe he could outsource every unknown. Sunny stayed beside him, posture, straight eyes, observing. When a teacher asked what she liked to draw, Sunny answered without hesitation. Families, she said. Gideon felt that word land inside him, like a small weight, steady grounding. At home, Sunny claimed spaces gently. A corner of the living room became a reading spot. A blanket lived there, folded neatly after use. Captain Buttons was placed upright each afternoon, facing the room as if on duty. Gideon never moved him. One evening, Gideon closed his laptop earlier than usual. "You're done," Sunny asked, not looking up from her constellation book. "For today," Gideon said. She nodded, satisfied. "Okay." They cooked together simple things. Sunny followed instructions, carefully asking questions only when necessary. When Gideon burned onions, she examined them, then said, "We can try again." They did. At night, routines held. Story, star lamp, door open just a little. Sometimes Sunny asked questions in a voice that was calm enough to hide how important they were. "Do you always work?" No, Gideon said. "Did you before?" "Yes." She paused. "Do you like this better?" Gideon considered the truth carefully. "Yes." Sunny accepted the answer without comment, as if she had filed it away as evidence. Then one night, as Gideon stood in the doorway ready to leave her room, Sunny said something that froze him. "Dad," she said. It wasn't a test. It wasn't a performance. It was a fact, now spoken as naturally as her own name. "Yes," Gideon answered, his voice quieter than usual. Sunny looked at Captain Buttons, then back at Gideon. "What time will you come back? Not will you come back, what time?" Gideon felt his throat tighten. "I'll be back before dinner," he said. Sunny nodded, satisfied. "Okay." When the door closed behind him, Gideon stood in the hallway longer than necessary, listening to the soft sounds of a child settling into sleep. He understood then that fatherhood was not an event. It was a pattern. And Sunny, without demanding, without pleading, had taught him the hardest thing he had ever learned. Staying wasn't passive. Staying was work. The second letter arrived in a plain white envelope. Gideon recognized the return address before he opened it: family court. Administrative language, dates, procedures, the kind of document that turned lives into timelines. He didn't flinch. He read it twice, then placed it on the kitchen counter beside Sunny's homework folder. 2 worlds in one frame: legal reality and second-grade spelling words. Sunny entered the kitchen with Captain Buttons pressed to her side. She wore a cardigan the color of pale sunlight, hair neatly tied, backpack straps even. "You got mail," she said. "Yes," Gideon replied, keeping his tone neutral. Not to hide the truth, only to keep it from becoming bigger than it needed to be. Sunny climbed onto her stool. She opened her lunchbox, removed a note she had saved from yesterday, and set it carefully on the counter as if it belonged to a collection. Gideon had learned that Sunny archived stability, small proofs of continuity, a note, a sticker, a ribbon from a school project, the kinds of things other kids forgot in pockets. He waited until she began her homework before speaking. "Sunny," he said, "there's a meeting coming up with the court. It's not scary. It's just something that helps make sure everything stays clear and fair." Sunny didn't react with alarm. She simply asked, "Do I have to go?" "No," Gideon said. "You don't have to be there, and no one will talk about you like you're not a person. I won't allow that." Sunny considered his words, then nodded. "Okay." The tension didn't show up as panic. It showed up as gravity. That evening, Elodie called. "I received the notice too," she said. "Yes," Gideon replied. "I expected it eventually." There was a pause. Elodie didn't sound angry. She sounded careful. "I don't want this to turn into a fight," she said. "Neither do I," Gideon answered. "I won't make it one." "I'm not challenging your role," Elodie continued, choosing each word. "But the court will ask if Sunny has a meaningful connection to me. They will ask what our plan is." "I have a plan," Gideon said, "and I want you to be part of it." "Silence, then, say it." Gideon leaned against the counter, looking toward the living room where Sunny was coloring a star map. Captain Buttons sat upright beside her, as if guarding the calm. "I want a consent order that formalizes what we already do," Gideon said. "Predictable visitation. Phone calls whenever Sunny wants. Shared holidays as she chooses. Mediation first always. And custody." Elodie asked quietly. "I remain primary," Gideon said. "But I will not isolate her from Hannah's family. I won't turn her into a possession." Elodie exhaled slowly. "Thank you." "We're not thanking each other," Gideon replied. "We're building something." The next day, Ms. J. Park visited for a routine check-in. She scanned the house with the calm gaze of someone who had seen too much instability in too many homes and was always looking for what might break. She didn't find it. Sunny offered her tea without being prompted. "I have chamomile," Sunny said. "Dad says it's gentle." Miss Park smiled. "That's thoughtful." Gideon didn't miss the significance. Sunny said Dad in front of a professional without hesitation. Not as a performance, as a fact. In Gideon's office, Ms. Park reviewed the upcoming hearing and what courts cared about most: Best interest, she said. Stability, continuity, emotional safety. Cooperation among adults. We have that, Gideon said. Ms. Park nodded. You do. But courts don't just want it. They want to see it. That evening, Sonny sat at the table working through math problems with neat, serious focus. Gideon drafted his declaration. Plain statements, clear commitments, no dramatic language. Sonny glanced up. What are you writing? A promise, Gideon said. To who, she asked. To the court, Gideon replied. So they understand you are safe, loved, and not being moved around. Sonny's pencil paused. I don't like being moved, she said. I know, Gideon answered. She returned to her math. The question she didn't ask mattered most. She didn't ask if the court could take her away. That fear, slowly, quietly, was being replaced by something else, assumption. The assumption that adults would talk to each other, not over her. The assumption that staying was the rule now. The courthouse was quieter than Gideon expected. No dramatic hallway scenes, no shouting. Just people waiting with folders in their laps, voices lowered, as if the building itself demanded restraint. Gideon arrived early with Caleb. Elodie arrived 10 minutes later with her attorney. They greeted each other with a small nod, respectful, cautious, mutual. No one spoke of winning. They spoke of Sonny. The hearing itself was brief, procedural, focused. Gideon answered questions clearly. Elodie did the same. Ms. J. Park provided her report in calm, professional terms. Stable environment, she said. Consistent routines. Child thriving. Adults cooperative. The judge's questions were practical. How will you ensure Sonny maintains connection with her maternal family? How will conflicts be handled without involving the child? What is the plan for travel school schedules and communication? Gideon didn't improvise. He had learned that care was also planning. Caleb slid the proposed agreement forward. Formal parenting time schedule, he said, with flexibility based on Sonny's needs and with a commitment to mediation for disagreements. Elodie's attorney added, Miss Carter supports the plan provided her role is recognized consistently, not informally. The judge read marked notes, then looked up. This is unusually cooperative, the judge said. Gideon met the judge's eyes. Sonny has had enough uncertainty, he said. We're not adding more. Elodie nodded. Agreed. The judge approved the agreement with minor clarifications, dates, notice requirements, school coordination. Nothing that changed the heart of it. Outside the courtroom, Gideon and Elodie stood in the corridor holding their copies. It's done, Elodie said. It's clear, Gideon replied. That's what matters. Elodie studied him. You understand this isn't just paperwork. Yes, Gideon said. It prevents confusion. It prevents panic. Elodie's mouth tightened briefly, not anger. Recognition. She used to panic when anyone said placement around her. Gideon's voice dropped. That word doesn't exist in our house anymore. Elodie nodded once. They didn't linger. There was nothing left to perform. The plan wasn't a trophy. It was a shield. Back home, Marin was at the table with Sonny helping her glue paper stars onto a poster. Captain Buttons sat in the center like a tiny supervisor. When Gideon walked in, Sonny looked up immediately. You're back, she said. Yes, Gideon replied, hanging his coat slowly. The pace mattered. Calm mattered. Sonny held up a hand-drawn booklet. Captain Buttons has stamps now, she announced. For visiting Aunt Libby. Gideon crouched to her level. That's very official, he said. Sonny nodded seriously. He needs structure. Gideon glanced at Marin. She smiled softly, watching without interrupting. Gideon took a breath, then sat across from Sonny, matching her height. We finished the meeting today, he said. Sonny didn't tense. She waited. The plan is simple, Gideon continued. You stay here. You go to school. You keep your room. Aunt Libby visits here, and you visit her when it makes sense. No surprises. Sonny absorbed the words, then asked the only question that mattered. Do I get to choose if I want to go? Yes, Gideon said. You'll always have a choice and we'll always talk first. Sunny nodded once. Okay, she said. Then I want to visit in summer. Gideon's chest tightened, not with fear, with gratitude for her certainty. That night, after Elodie came for dinner, as planned, pasta, garlic bread, strawberries on the side because Sunny declared it a celebration. Sunny padded into the hallway in pajamas. She looked at Gideon. She looked at Elodie. You're both my people, Sunny said matter-of-factly. Then she returned to her room. Gideon stood still for a moment after her door closed, feeling the sentence settle in the quiet. Not a victory. A solution. A future. And somewhere deep in the house, beneath the paper, beneath the signatures, beneath the careful adult language, one thing had happened that no court could order and no money could buy. A child had stopped waiting. Sunny turned 8 in early spring. The celebration was small by design. No banners tall enough to announce anything. No crowd that needed managing. Just a table set with paper plates, a cake she helped choose, and a yellow banner she insisted on hanging herself slightly crooked exactly right. Elodie flew in for the weekend. Marin arrived with her children. They didn't circle Sunny. They didn't overwhelm her with attention. They let her move between people at her own pace, confident, unhurried. Gideon watched. Sunny opened gifts carefully, setting the wrapping aside instead of tearing it. When she reached Gideon's, she paused. This one feels heavy, she said. It is, Gideon replied. Inside was a book of star maps, pages dense with constellations, notes in the margins room to write observations. Sunny flipped through it, serious. Then she nodded once. This is good, she said. High praise. Later, when cake was served, Sunny counted candles herself. She leaned in, breath steady, and blew them out without closing her eyes. What did you wish for? Marin asked lightly. Sunny considered the question. I already have it, she said. No one pressed for more. That night, after guests left and the house settled into its familiar quiet, Gideon read to Sunny as usual. He did the voices better now, not perfectly, but confidently. When he closed the book, Sunny sat up. Do you remember when you asked me if I was lost? She said. Yes, Gideon replied. I wasn't, Sunny said. I was waiting. I know, Gideon answered. She smiled, small and certain. It worked. Ordinary life arrived quietly. It didn't announce itself with milestones or declarations. It slipped in through mornings that needed lunches packed and evenings that needed patience. Sunny's school schedule reshaped Gideon's days. Breakfast happened earlier. Meetings moved later. Gideon delegated more than he ever had, trusting people he once monitored relentlessly. The world did not collapse. Sunny adapted in her own way. She learned the route to school within a week, counting intersections, memorizing the bakery window with the blue awning. She liked predictability. At home, she claimed space without checking first. Her shoes rested by the door. Her drawings layered the refrigerator. Captain Buttons occupied a corner of the living room, like a fixture never moved, always acknowledged. One evening, Sunny watched Gideon close his laptop earlier than usual. You're done, she asked. Yes, Gideon said, for today. She nodded. Okay. They cooked together simple things. Sunny followed instructions carefully. When something went wrong, she didn't freeze. She adjusted. At school orientation, Gideon sat beside other parents and listened more than he spoke. Sunny stood nearby, answering questions clearly. What do you like to draw? A teacher asked. Families, Sunny replied. At night, routines held. Story, star lamp, door open just a little. Sometimes Sunny asked questions. Do you always work? No. Did you before? Yes. Do you like this better? Yes, Gideon said without hesitation. Sunny accepted the answer and turned onto her side. Trust didn't arrive dramatically. It arrived when a child stopped asking where to sit. One night after Sunny fell asleep, Gideon stood in the hallway listening to the quiet. The house held its shape around them now, no longer pristine, no longer empty. Downstairs, the refrigerator still held the drawings. The first one, two figures under a yellow sun, had faded slightly at the edges. Beside it hung newer ones, more confident, more detailed. A family evolving. Gideon thought of the man he had been: efficient, isolated, unchallenged. He thought of the man he was becoming: interrupted, grounded, accountable. The shift had been irreversible. Sunny stirred slightly in her sleep, Captain Buttons tucked beneath her arm. Gideon left the door open just a little and walked downstairs. The next morning, Sunny sat at the kitchen table working through handwriting practice. Gideon watched from the counter, coffee cooling in his hand. "Dad," Sunny said, without looking up. "Did you know I used to wait a lot?" "Yes," Gideon replied. "I don't wait anymore," she said. Not proudly, not dramatically. Just stating a fact. Gideon nodded. "That's good." Later that night, as Gideon read and Sunny listened with half-lidded focus, she interrupted him. "Do you remember when you asked if I was lost?" she asked. "Yes. I wasn't," Sunny said again. "I was waiting for someone who would come back." Gideon met her eyes. "I did come back," he said. "Yes," Sunny replied. "That's why I stayed." She turned onto her side, Captain Buttons secure. "Good night, Dad. Good night, Sunny." Gideon closed the book and stood at the door longer than usual, watching the steady rhythm of her breathing. He understood then not everything that had changed him, but the single moment that had. He hadn't saved a child. He had answered one. And some things once found are meant to stay. Did this story leave a lasting impression on you? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment, rate it from 1 to 10, and tap the end screen to see another heartwarming story waiting for you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, then tap the bell icon so you don't miss any new stories. Until our next story.